Welcome to the Mama Thrive podcast. I'm Kendra Blake, and I'm so glad you are here. I believe that motherhood is far more than a life stage to survive. It is a profound rite of passage, a developmental transition that reshapes identity, values, relationships, and the nervous system itself. And when motherhood is properly understood and compassionately supported, it can become a powerful catalyst for self-discovery, meaning, and reclamation. This podcast is grounded in what I now call the reclaimed motherhood method, a compassion-led framework that honors the emotional, embodied, and identity-shifting realities of becoming a mother, rather than asking women to simply cope, push through, or perform motherhood better. Every fortnight, I'm joined in thoughtful, honest conversation by mothers and the professionals who support them, therapists, doulas, clinicians, coaches, and practitioners, as we explore what it truly means to be inside the work of motherhood and to support mothers in ways that are ethical, embodied, and sustainable. My intention with this podcast is to create a space where we talk about motherhood differently, a space for growth-orientated mothers and those who walk alongside them, who sense that there is more beneath the surface, more nuance, more truth, more permission to slow down, feel deeply, and reconnect with who they are becoming. Mama Thrive is an invitation to step away from perfection, productivity, and self-abandonment, and towards a motherhood that is more connected, compassionate, and consciously lived. Because within the challenges of modern motherhood lies not just the possibility of coping, but the opportunity to reclaim, to integrate, and to thrive with purpose. All right, welcome, Gea. It's so wonderful having you with me today, recording for my Mama Thrive podcast. Welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a joy to be here.
Well, I'm going to start off as I always do, which is just to ask you to share a little bit about your journey into your work, and especially how your own personal experience with embodiment and motherhood has shaped your understanding of, I suppose, somatic presence, your yoga work, the way that you hold space for women and mothers in particular.
Yes. Well, my journey with prenatal and postnatal kind of spaces that I'm holding started about 10 years ago when I enrolled in my first kind of prenatal education training. I finished my prenatal yoga course then. And since I was already offering, I was running a studio back then, back at home in Croatia, and there was nothing in terms of prenatal yoga classes or a space where mothers can be held. So I started running my classes there. And that's kind of the entry point for my prenatal and postnatal offerings. Ever since then, I've been continually holding spaces for mothers. Eventually, I went on to study with some midwives, some kinesiotherapists. I enrolled in doula trainings. I'm a full spectrum doula. And I'm continuing in this path, and now today I'm offering also prenatal and postnatal yoga teacher trainings and birth partners workshops besides my everyday work with mothers, but I'm continually involved in this sphere. And personally, I'm a mother. My son is 5 years old now, and I gave birth in the UK. I have no support system here, and the culture that I'm brought in also, we've never seen nannies or any kind of non-family support in terms of helping you take care of your children or someone helping take care of yourself as a mother or of your household. You know, if it's not your mother or someone in your family, you don't really pay people to do that. And I gave birth during the lockdown, so that itself was quite isolating. I didn't have an opportunity to meet anyone who was in the same boat as I was. And out of that, I think as mothers, we have this creative pulse. I found my way to find my network. I was doing online prenatal classes. I had like 50 mothers doing yoga with me online. So I did find my ways. But there was a lack of space where I could just arrive and not necessarily do something, but just have a place where I can land. And I think that's what I've been doing mostly in my studio here in Wandsworth since then.
You've got such an array of skills to you, and so much that allows for this encompassment of, I suppose, a holistic holding of mothers. And you've said something so beautiful there, Gea, about this idea that actually sometimes we just need a safe space to be in. We don't necessarily need more skills or more trainings or more stuff to do. We just need to be held. I suppose part of what I'm curious around is, I suppose a lot of us mums instinctively know that something is happening with us in our bodies, in our sense of identity, when we have children, when we become mothers, but we don't always have a language for it. Mm-hmm. Based on what you've just shared, how do you help them name what's actually happening to them in their worlds, and how do you support them subsequent to that?
I have a very complex relationship with how prenatal and postnatal support courses, classes are offered in the modern world. I find that the majority of them come with the storyline and with the idea that us as mothers need a specialist to understand how to be pregnant, how to give birth, how to raise our children, which I think is inherently wrong. So I try to step away from that in my containers that I hold. The majority of my work is like what underlies all my offerings is this idea of motivating them to use their autonomy, because I can't give it to them, right? Nobody can give you your autonomy. You have it. You will either use it or you won't use it. So I have a feeling that yes, we do some yoga, we do like good deep core stuff. But I think the majority of my kind of purpose here is to give them spaces to tell me no, to give them spaces to choose a different path than what I'm offering, to give them space to not call a birth natural, you know, in this way or the other way. I give them the space to feel heard and seen. I don't question their choices as a mother. And I try to honor and value them. And I think when we approach holding spaces in this way, there's like this whole performative aspect of motherhood can kind of, you know, drop away. Nobody needs to be the perfect mother here. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main thing about it.
It's beautiful. I love that, because there I think you're speaking both as a mother care practitioner, so somebody who actively creates safe spaces through your work ultimately for mothers to land in. But I think you're also speaking about having had the lived experience of being a mother and needing to not feel like you have to perform in order to belong in a space. Am I right, Gea? Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. I set very high standards for myself personally, and you know, I was always not on time, but like 10 minutes early, or you know, everything is done.
Today's an example.
Yeah, I was here 10 minutes early, but motherhood kind of pushed me in a place where I couldn't be on time for anything. Like I was so behind with everything regarding work. I felt I was behind with the way that I looked, the way, like the speed of my recovery, even though like in my like mental mind, it's all makes sense. But that sense of urgency or things to be done in a certain way, like motherhood really pushed me in a place where I just stopped, you know, my messages went unanswered for 4 weeks. And at first, there was this moment of great guilt. But then at one point, I was like, well, you know what? It looks like this is me now, you know? And I stopped apologizing myself for it. So I think from my lived experience, it really came to that understanding you know, when someone comes to me now and he's like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, I'm like, girl, we don't, you know. Like, and I think it's okay. So the main shift that came from my lived experience is that I allowed myself the space to be this way, which before I didn't. Yeah.
I love that. I really, really do. I think something that's coming up for me as I'm listening to you, especially knowing your work with yoga and somatics and movement, I mean, that feels like the ultimate landing in the philosophy of it all. Does that feel true? Does it feel like it brought home the true sense of embodiment, Gea?
In a way it did, and in a way it didn't. It's always interesting. So my doula teacher, Anita, she's a great woman. She's like a head of doula association, big in European Union for this. But first, when I invited her to be like a guest teacher in my teacher training, she was like, I'm not sure this is a good idea. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I don't really have a good experience with yoga teachers giving birth, you know? So it was an interesting conversation, and it made me question a lot of things. She was like, it's supposed to be this great embodiment where we also are so in tune with our bodies and able to soften and release. But I often find that the way we practice yoga and this good understanding of the physical body also brings oftentimes with itself this great urgency to control, I know my body, you know, of course I'll give birth. Like I breathe so well, you know. So I have a feeling that experienced physical practitioners from that attunement to their body can also go to the road where they feel like they have control, while like birth is everything but control, right? So I think that in a way it's a yes and it's a no. Those who are able to understand their body, but in a way of like walking with it, and those who manage to switch off the thinking mind, then yes, we are talking about this great embodiment that serves well in this big transformation. But it can also be something that is actually standing like right there in your way, like a biggest obstacle to go over on this journey.
How fascinating. I love that. You've named the duality there that is ultimately motherhood in itself too, which is this real push and pull between what we know to be true, so our thinking mind, and what we can feel in our body instinctively. And I suppose that is a way, I wonder, I'm almost pulling some threads here, Gea, so let me know if I'm overstepping in any way or form.
Go.
But I wonder if in a way that has informed the way that you've created the space holding for mothers so that they can lean more instinctively into what their bodies are saying to them so that they can have a little bit more agency, because you've taken this duality that can be there when we get caught up in that performance piece, the thinking piece, the needing to be in control, and you've gone, oh, hold on a second. That what spaces need to be cultivated in order for somebody to feel safe enough to be in their bodies, to be in agency of themselves, to be able to practice saying their no's. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was kind of what was coming up for me as I was hearing you.
Yes, it does. And I actually find that this insight that I got from motherhood and working in spaces where mothers kind of come together, I also took it in all my other aspects of my work and my offerings. And I think there are plenty of layers through which we can work as practitioners who are holding space for others, and it goes way beyond. Who couldn't like have use of having autonomy, very active, you know, over their bodies, over their minds, over what they do, over their life. So I do take it elsewhere, and I find there are different gateways to it. I think language is very powerful. I never come to a space kind of grading experiences, or I often find that, like in the modern world right now, there is also a high rise of very natural things, like however, you know, we will think about it, like no medicine, doctors are this and that, you don't want to go to the hospital, you want whatever. I never hold a space with putting my personal agenda on it in a way. I'm like, this is here, this is there, what is right for you? And the language here can be used to shape the spaces in this way. Then the way that I offer things, you know, there is a sequence, but you can do it in this way, you can do it in that way. This is one variation, this is another. It's not that this one is easier, this is harder, or this is more advanced, this is less advanced. If you're very embodied, choose this one, you know? It's more like, you know, the things are out here. What really works for you? You know, not for me, not for whoever. And I think no matter how, as a practitioner who holds space, you set up the room, I never put myself there as like a guru or like, I'm the person who you should follow, you know. It's more like, I'm here. You know, this is exactly the same as you. I do all the same mistakes. I go through life exactly like you do, trying to figure it out. But no matter how you put yourself out there, as the moment you're kind of in front of them, you know, they do see you as authority. And they won't, and that the relationship with the authority is often so complex. And I find that by breaking down these barriers and trying to just show myself as very humane helps to avoid that. Yeah.
Do you know what?
Does
I think
that answer
that's
your question?
yeah. I think that theme there around honoring our humanity as women who support mothers is such a key piece, because I suppose it offers an opportunity for the women that are with us to feel safe enough to bring themselves to a space. That authenticity piece is really powerful. Yeah, it really is. Do you feel, well, I suppose I'm curious, how do you think your experience of becoming a mother has shaped that? You named earlier that, I suppose, you went from this, and I suppose it's still part of you, more controlled, a personality type, fairly perfectionistic, performance-driven, and then motherhood unrattled that. Do you feel like you've been able to allow yourself to show up both in the messy middle of things, as well as a really driven and ambitious woman, that you can be both and in more spaces?
Oh, yes,
and by virtue of
absolutely.
that, yeah, the women around you can too?
Oh, yes. I just think that I personally find when someone shapes a picture of me that's way beyond what I am, just puts so much pressure on my life. Like, I don't want, you know, there's so much happening that just by living up to your standards is another task for me, right? And I don't find it useful. So I do try to be very honest and real in my offerings. And I really like aside from the space holder and the teacher, my yoga teachers and my yoga philosophy teachers, they always say that, you know, if your spiritual life, if your spiritual practice, if the life that you live, if the choices that you make pull you away from the life that you are living, like right here, you know, I'm here in London, it's busy, it's crazy, I'm running a business. If I have to run a business, I can't run this business by, you know, lying down in Bali for 7 months, you know, this is not the reality of it. Or if your practice or your life puts you in a place where you feel like you're above others, where you feel like you're better, more enlightened, awakened, you know, maybe there is something wrong with your practice. The good path should always bring you in more intimacy with the reality of life rather than take you away from it, you know? So I feel that to step into my shoes is to play the cards that I've been given and to play them in a way that is relevant in my living experience, not, you know, somewhere else where life is peaceful and there are no distractions, you know. Sometimes I have like tap dancers underneath my class, you know, studio below, and we are meditating. Yeah, if you can't meditate with the tap dancers below you, like, good luck walking out there, you know.
Wow. I mean, it feels really profound and also synchronistic, because we just had, I don't know if you heard it earlier, Gea, somebody sawing outside the window. I was like, oh, that is just perfectly timed to bring into a podcast
I didn't really mind it.
And do you know what? There's something really profound about that, because I think we're so often trying to seek something different to what we're currently living that we lose out on the true essence of presence, which, again, ironically, so many mums that I work with feel so broken around, which is, how can I be more present to what I'm seeing and witnessing in front of me right now? But what you've just named is the very act of trying to make your presence a different presence to how you are doesn't allow you to be present to what you're witnessing as a mother. That's
Yes, and
profound.
I have an interesting story on that, because I also don't feel, I have a feeling that oftentimes, like today, like life is really busy. We should all do a lot of meditation and restorative yoga. And I'm like, yeah, great. You know, this is epic. But we can also do the other stuff. It's not like you have to just go complete opposite or if I often also find that there's like a one way offered as being these peaceful humans, you know. There are plenty of gateways. And I find that doing things that you love, even if there is a lot of them, is not a problem. You know, it was never a problem for me to do the things that were rooted in my purpose, no matter how tough life was around me. And even in the midst of early postpartum, you know, everyone was like, you're not supposed to go back to work like this. And I was like, please just stop, you know, like 0 to, like from midnight to midnight is what my day is happening in, you know. I have zero support. I have nobody to come to cook for me. I have nobody to clean my house. I have nobody to come and help me out with the baby. Like, I'm all there by myself while my husband is working, because someone needs to also provide for us while I'm not working, right? And then giving my son to my husband when he would come back home, locking the door of a room, turning on Zoom to teach an hour, that was a blessing. Like, that was my sanctuary. Like, work was like the only thing that kept me sane at that moment. It was my own little sanctuary, you know, even though I was holding also space for others, but I was also in a way holding the space for myself. And I found that plenty of things that I like, just the way that I became a yoga teacher, you know. I was studying mathematics and computer science, you know. I was on Friday and Saturdays, I would work from 6 p.m. to 7 in the morning in a nightclub, because I had to pay for whatever, my trainings, my, you know, going out and everything. So I finished my teacher training by finishing work 7 in the morning, showing up at 9 a.m., finish teacher training, go back to work. 7 a.m., sleep for an hour, go to a teacher training. Comes Monday, 8 to 8, lectures at the university. It was never a problem. I don't say that this is the best way to do things. You know, I would probably choose different pathways right now. But it's just that I don't find that being busy is a problem. I think being busy with things that drain you is a problem. Living your purpose rarely feels heavy. And then it gets a little heavy, but from there you regulate until you find your perfect measure. Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of imagining this younger version of you, Gea, and
Oh my God, I was
what
young.
you've
Don't. That wouldn't happen right now.
what you've navigated and how you land here. And I suppose part of me is thinking a little bit about, and it's interesting. I'm thinking a little bit about this perfect mother myth that so many of us mothers aspire to. So this image of how we should be as a mum. And I'm reconciling this image of like the perfect yoga teacher with the version that you've just explained to me. And I'm going, how ironic, isn't it, that I would see you as the embodiment of yoga, just and yoga philosophy by the way that you're speaking, but it's not the kind of stereotype or this idealized, romanticized version of it. It's like the true, authentic version of it, which is just so much more, there's so much more warmth I have in my heart for that. And I think there's something really, what's the word that I'm looking for? Enlivening about being able to be with somebody in their full truth, the messy version of it, as opposed to this polished, pristine, pedestaled version of it, both in motherhood or in your worker role. Like, I just love that.
But motherhood did help.
I want to pause here for a moment because if this conversation is resonating, it's likely speaking to something deeper. Over the last few years, my work has evolved into what I now call the reclaimed motherhood method, a compassion-led framework for understanding motherhood as a rite of passage, rather than something mothers simply need to cope with or perform better. This method is for practitioners who support mothers, therapists, doulas, clinicians, coaches, who can feel that the existing models don't quite hold the emotional, identity-shifting reality of motherhood. If you find yourself carrying the work home, feeling over-responsible or quietly wishing for a more embodied, sustainable way to support mothers, I've opened a waitlist where I'll be sharing more as this work unfolds. You can join the Reclaimed Motherhood Method waitlist via the link in the show notes. And for now, simply know you're not alone in sensing that there's a different way.
Motherhood did help me. You know, it's also easy with the personality that I am to never feel like you've done enough. In motherhood, what was interesting is I was waiting for my perfect moment, you know? Like, I wouldn't step on my mat because, okay, if it's not a 75-minute practice, like, are you even living, you know? So I ended up not practicing for months, and I was like, what the heck, this is not working. So what motherhood did is it pushed me into finding realistic expectations of myself. So like I started small. I was like, okay, like if I wait for my 75 minutes, it's never gonna happen. But he does sleep for 10 minutes every now and then, you know? So I was like, maybe if I have my mat rolled out all the time, maybe I can do something for 10 minutes. And that was beautiful because it brought me back in connection to myself, showing me also that we don't need big things as mothers. I find that, you know, sometimes when someone wants to help me, they're like, oh yeah, leave your kids with me and go away for 2 weeks. And I'm like, I don't really need this type of help. Like, I need you to give me 30 minutes, you know? So I found that what motherhood gave me is to understand that little things are really big things, and I can live my life, and I love my life as it is. I just need a little break, you know? And in that little break, I did learn how to restore myself a lot quicker than, you know, when I was younger, I had a feeling like I always need a lot of, you know, you need a lot of rest, a lot of vacation, a lot of everything, which is great if you can afford it in the shape of your life. But today I'm learning that I don't need big things to be well. I need just small things regularly. Yeah.
So maybe I'm going to bungee off of that into how you sustain your work practice, Gea, especially by virtue of the fact that you are a working mum, as well as holding space for so many. How do you keep this work sustainable? How do you resource and make sure that you've got a level of resilience to continue to offer the space from a cup that is at least full, if not overflowing?
I think it definitely helps that by doing this work, I'm absolutely sure that I'm walking in my purpose. If it wasn't like that, it would feel like it would be heavy, you know? So working more, doing more was never a problem or issue for me. I think the challenge that I met was thinking that people who I work with can't meet me there. You know, they can't meet my standard, they can't meet my pace. Sometimes I would try to work with someone and I would be like, oh my God, I would be done with this like 7 hours ago. Which made it very easy for me to do everything. And I would just take something, learn it, and do it myself, you know. So I did my website, I did my accounting, I did my social media, I did my marketing, because, you know, that's how it goes when you're a sole trader. So I think the greatest challenge was to stand in a place where I can trust that people around me can actually help me. And it took a little trial and error until I found people who work with me well. But that delegation of work was, I think, one of the greatest learning curves. So it's possible now only because I have people who I trust who can help me. If it wasn't for them, I couldn't do it on my own. And oftentimes people think, oh, you do all of this alone. I'm like, not anymore. I used to be this person, but now I accept helping hands. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you've created such a beautiful community where people have connected in community with others, and what you've just named is that what has made your business more sustainable and possibly even thriving is community. The irony of it, isn't it? And being open to stepping out of needing to be the kind of perfect sole trader, the perfect entrepreneur, doing it all by yourself, and going, actually, I can do this with support from others. And I think that's eye-opening.
And I also think it's very logical when you think of the definition of community. You know, community was never meant to be the space where one person does everything and others just come to visit. That's not the definition of community. In community, everyone has a role to play, doesn't it? That's why it works, because people have their obligations, they have their responsibilities. If it's not like that, it's not a community, really. So I think that was a big learning curve. I was trying to build a community while myself doing everything, and that never works, because it's not a community then it's like a following. But if you distribute the load and everyone takes their own responsibility, then we are talking about community. Yeah.
And I wonder if in a way it has followed your own motherhood journey too, Gea, and being able to build community around yourself. I mean, you said as much at the beginning of our call conversation together, which is you stepped into your own creative way of building almost a village around yourself. And it would not have been the conventional village if you had been at home where you had your family structure, for example. But you've created community around you and your business ownership capacity, but possibly also in the same breath in your own motherhood journey too, likewise. Does that feel true?
Yes, and I find that it's very realistic with the journey into matrescence. I don't know if you felt that when you entered motherhood, but I really find this, and it happened to me plenty of times since I became a mother. But also I witnessed that with a lot of women who I work with, almost as if motherhood stretches you to a point and kind of stands heavy on you to the point where you feel like you can't hold anything. Like, how can I possibly hold anything more than this? Like, how can a human hold anything more than this? And it almost then feels as if you kind of fall into like a big dark pit, and all of a sudden, like, the space that you can hold things for expands like exponentially. And every now and then in motherhood, I have met that wall when I felt like I can't do this anymore. And only motherhood gave me that expansion that I also don't really know how to explain. You know, I don't know how to explain to someone that I was running on no sleep for I don't know how many long. Like, you know, I should have ended in a psychiatry in other containers, right? But all of a sudden, it's almost as if, I don't know, there is some strength that comes from I don't know where. And all of a sudden, I was able to hold a lot more space.
Yeah. I speak about that as meeting our edges. And I suppose you've named it earlier, this idea of surrender, this softening that needs to occur when we do meet those edges. Because we can step forward with this real desire to control or grasp or figure things out, fix it. But if you almost surrender into it, there's that softening allows that expansiveness to occur. Or at least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you bring that around the matrescence journey, so the motherhood journey. I have found that in birthing my business, I've also had the same experience where I've met my edges with it, and I've been oh, well, I can't grow any further. And then it's been a surrender to the process and a softening into it where suddenly that sense of purpose has re-emerged, and I felt more aligned with what I'm bringing out there into the world and how I'm working. And I've met souls that have been able to rally around me and go, yes, this is needed and it's important. And I think the same experience has been very true in my own motherhood journey.
Yeah, my teacher always used to say that like pregnancy stretches you to your edge, birth breaks you in a way, and not like that, you know, that there is anything wrong with your body after, but in terms of like your understanding of yourself, it can often also break you. But then the postpartum gives this big pit from which you dig your way out to rebuild yourself, and to kind of the breaking is more like a metaphor for rearranging your pieces in a way that is more aligned with yourself once you go through something like that. And I find that what you talk about, the meeting your edges, I can relate that to those moments when, you know, there is a decision to be made of how am I going forward from here. And with every decision like that, it always felt like I'm coming closer to myself. And that's also, yeah. When we run businesses like this, I also feel it's really difficult to separate it from your own personal kind of journey. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like I come here and talk about my personal life. It's more. The challenges that I meet will always be reflected in the business that I run to, and the way that I respond to my life is also going to be the way that I respond to challenges while running a business. In the same way that, you know, a woman who has her patterns in decision making or relationship to pain are going to be the exact same patterns that she makes when she's in labor. Yeah. So in a way, my teacher always also say like the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. In a way, this is who I am. Yeah.
So interesting, isn't it? I was reflecting as you were speaking about, as an occupational therapist, one of our models is this doing, being, becoming model. And it's really indicative of what you've just named. And I genuinely feel that motherhood is this ultimate, I mean, life, to be fair, is this ultimate journey of becoming. But there's something really quite incredible about the becoming that occurs when you step into motherhood. And I think especially as a mother care practitioner, somebody who holds space for women and the more kind of feminine energy, motherhood in its essence is the ultimate of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's this real sense of just embodiment and becoming if you allow yourself to be in that space. And I agree. I mean, if I even reflect on my own birth process and pregnancy and the subsequent postpartum, I'm now 18 months with my youngest. There's a real kind of landing of the pieces back together, but then also this shattering open again and a landing back together, and this constant becoming and evolution of self. And it's been very reflective in my own workspace too. Our patterns are our patterns, Gea. You're so right.
Yeah. But I also see it, you know, when I understand what you say, and I do feel that. I also love for myself to frame it more as a return, you know. The becoming can also sound as if you're not already there, you know, like you're not, it feels like you're reaching for something that is not already there. Well, I always found that that process of discovery more felt like it was returning me back to my essence rather than, you know, yes, reshaping it, but maybe more aligning it with who I really was, but maybe was too young or too scared to say it, be it. So yeah, I also see it as a great return.
How ridiculous. Yeah. I so resonate. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. That returning to self, I mean, like genuinely, I've got this well of emotion that I'm trying to keep at bay, because otherwise I'll just be a tearful, emotional mess, because there's something really beautiful about that sense of returning. And yeah, I've lost my words around it, actually.
That's okay. But I also think that both has values, you know, it's not not every word is ready to come out at all times. And I think there is also great value in giving ourselves the space and time for things to unfold as we are ready. I often find also that there is this idea of urgency with everything, and almost as if with that too, or like a spiritual journey or everything, like there is this urgency to be, you know, more enlightened, more awakened, more in contact with ourselves. And I'm like, we have a whole life for it, you know. There's no rush.
Yeah.
Imagine how boring would it be for us to be enlightened now and then have, you know, this is it. What do we do for the next 70 years?
Yeah, it's a process, isn't it?
Yeah. It's okay for
true.
things to go slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe with that, yeah, I feel like that's a really beautiful space for us to start kind of holding the closure of our chat together. Are there any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to leave with any mothers that are listening, or equally any women who are running businesses in the support of mother care, those holding space for other women and mothers?
Yes, I work with a lot of women, a lot of mothers. I see a lot of families on my like weekly rotation of classes, workshops, trainings. And I do see that as a mother and as both of us working with mothers, there comes a moment where some things just don't work anymore. And as a mother, like I've seen, as like a space holder lately, especially, I've seen so many moms being made redundant just like on their return back to work, and often all these places that feel like they're the end of you. I've also witnessed so much creativity rising out of it. And I often see that as women, when you put us in those places, like we can birth things in our own way, just in the same way that we are, you know, in our blueprint have the capacity sometimes to birth babies. So maybe just that in those moments when it feels like everything is falling apart, I always see it as this great little moment to just recollect yourself and maybe choose to do things in a different way. And the more choices we make, just small choices to go further with what is true for us, I really witnessed this taking us places. And I found that to be the most important thing, just to, whatever you do, to do it with the whole heart. And if you can't do it with your whole heart, maybe just try to do something else. Yeah. And then once when I'm rooted in that, everything finds its way, even though there are moments when I cry thinking we're gonna close tomorrow, you know, or how the hell am I supposed to go through this again, or why me? Somehow things do fall in place when there is a little trust and love in everything that we do. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So maybe with that in mind, this will also be in the show notes for anyone listening. Gea, what do you offer? Where are you based? Can you tell us a little bit about what you have available for those that are listening?
Thank you so much. I need to work more on speaking about that. I own a yoga studio, Soma Yoga, in Wandsworth in southwest London. We have a super rich prenatal and postnatal program here, aside from the whole other thing that we do. I offer prenatal and postnatal yoga classes. I offer birth partners workshops, which are like a total highlight here in the studio, and partners rave about them. It's one of my favorite things that I do. And in the scope of this work, I also offer prenatal and postnatal yoga teacher trainings. that I host in person here at Soma, but also I host them online on Zoom. And yeah, there are plenty of teachers around the world doing this training, and this feels very powerful, you know? I kind of educate the teachers to do this work, and now these communities are built, you know, in Europe, in Australia, in Saudi Arabia, in the US, everywhere. So it's really inspiring to see how with the work that we do, we can send a ripple out there that can hold so much more people than I can do myself. Yes. And yeah, I think that's it in the scope of the pregnancy and postpartum bubble. Apart from that, I host an online platform. It's called the Online Yoga Club. It's really cool. And I host retreats, other teacher trainings. Oh yeah, different things out there. But this is kind of more related to the topics we covered. Yeah.
It'll all be linked in the show notes for anyone interested. The Online Yoga Club is fantastic. There's so much depth to it for anybody who can't make their way in person to the studio. Thank you, Gea. It's been so wonderful getting to chat to you. Thank you for making the time. I really appreciate your wisdom and probably could chat the whole day with you, to be honest.
We can do that too.
We could. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I love your work. And you know that I do. I've invited Kendra quite a while ago to host Mother Circles in my studio, and yeah, I really appreciate all the knowledge you share around this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we close, I want to leave you with a gentle invitation. If you're listening as someone who supports mothers, and today's episode has stirred recognition, questions, or even a quiet exhale, you might be exactly who the Reclaimed Motherhood Method is being created for. This work isn't about learning more techniques. It's about understanding motherhood as a developmental transition, working compassionately with identity shifts, nervous system load, and emotional ecology, without burning yourself out in the process. I'm currently gathering practitioners into a waitlist as this work continues to take shape. Joining doesn't commit you to anything. It simply keeps you close to the conversation. You'll find the link in the show notes. And wherever you are in your journey, thank you for the care you bring to mothers and for being here.